All right, welcome everybody. This is the City of Desert Hot Springs, a regular meeting of the City Council, and the City Council serving as a successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board for Tuesday, November 1st, 2022. This is our 6 p.m. regular session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts.
Present.
Councilmember Nunez.
Present.
Councilmember Pai.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
Present.
And Mayor Mattis.
Present. Invocation tonight's going to be given by Pastor Thomas Tarrant of Covenant Church, and congratulations on your new location. I know you're having a grand opening soon, and so congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for everybody for the opportunity to minister from a spiritual perspective of our city. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for your governing principles, Lord God, your love and your kindness to us. We do pray for your wisdom, your convictions, Lord God, that our leadership, Lord God, led by for the sake of our people, Lord God, and our fair city, to bless us, to prosper us, and to keep us safe. We give you praise, we give you honor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Ms. Pai, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do not have any report on closed session tonight because we had none, and no other action was reportable from any prior meetings. The approval of the agenda tonight, at this time, the City Council may amend the order of the agenda, pull any items from the consent calendar. Before we do that, we have one item on the consent calendar. It's the minutes from the October 18th meeting. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to that item? See nobody coming forth. We'll close that. I'll entertain the council's
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor, the minutes as presented.
A second.
Let's approve the agenda and the consent calendar. I have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to speakers. I do have a couple speaker cards. If you're in the audience, you'd like to speak on items that are not on the agenda tonight, you can fill out a blue speaker card, or I'll call you forward at the end. We'll start with DG Cook.
Hello and good evening. For those who don't know, I'm Desert Hot Springs Planning Commissioner D.G. Cook. I want to thank Mayor Scott Mattis for the concern he expressed at the last City Council meeting regarding my brief hospital stay. I also want to thank everyone who reached out to me with their well wishes while I was there. Obviously, I'm up and around and doing well now, feeling great. I look forward to the upcoming Planning Commission meeting next week, and also Tuesday's going to be a big day. So, lastly, I cannot stress strongly enough that the warnings given by pharmaceutical companies and health professionals regarding possible adverse effects involved whenever introducing a new medication into your regimen can be very serious. I learned this the hard way. So everyone, please take note of these warnings. Lastly, my sincere best wishes to everyone for a great upcoming week. Thank you.
Well, you can always tell, first of all, we're all happy that you're okay, but we also know you're new to the Planning Commission because you said you're looking forward to the next meeting. So give you a year there, that might change. But
Next Monday. Next Monday. Anyway, thank you very much for your concern.
All right. And a blast from the past, Mr. Gabriel King.
I was going to speak on the fire issue.
Got it. I will hold it till then. You sure you don't want to say a few words before that? I'm just joking.
Sorry. I'm getting hearings from Costco in about a week, so you got to yell at me until that time.
When the fire thing comes up, I'll call you up.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I have nobody else in public comments. I have no other blue cards. Mr. Moen, would you like to speak in public comments?
Yes, sir.
Well, please come on up.
First of all, I'd like to say that I appreciate our city council and how open you are to so many things. Last night at the Desert Hot Springs Spa and the Miracle Springs Resort, we had about 2,500 people celebrating a safe Halloween. It was a nice venue. There were lots of kids there, and everyone felt safe. And I think it's important to have a safe place to be on Halloween. And I'd also like to mention that the Tranquility Park, I'm very interested in that, and I'd like to see that happen. Another thing, and I know I mention this every time I'm here, Pearson Boulevard and Highway 62. That is a natural gateway into Desert Hot Springs that we need to develop. At the last meeting, I heard about art in public places. And I have an idea for some historic art that could be part of that grand entrance. And my proposal is to have about a 30-foot statue of Cabot Yerxa at that entrance, guiding his mule, Merry Christmas, on his hunt for water. He used to have to walk down to Garnett, that's where Indian and the freeway are now, and then he'd walk back here. There were no roads, there was no air conditioning, and I'm sure that mule smelled perfectly wonderful. But that's a proposal I would like to make, and maybe there's some other ideas. But let's get some attention to that corner. Let's get people to slow down and come into town. We are a destination community. Pearson Boulevard, dead ends. Palm Drive, dead ends. So let's get them into town. That's the bigger part of our income in Desert Hot Springs. Most people are in the hospitality industry of some form or another. And with that, I'll say thank you and good night. And remember, everyone, vote next Tuesday.
Thank you, Mr. Moe. And is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come forth and speak in public comments on items not on the agenda? I see nobody coming forth. We'll close public comments this time and move to the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I have a few updates from staff this evening, starting with Jeffrey Buckheim, our Administrative Services Director.
Good evening and thank you. So for our financial highlights for fiscal year 22-23, as of November 1st, the budgeted the revenues are $5,719,573, which is at 12% of the budget. As of last year at this time, revenues were that is incorrect. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. So for 22-23, the revenues are actually $3,904,261, which is 12% of the budget. Last year at this time, the revenues were at $5,719,000, which are 18% of the budget. However, last year's revenues include the $1.7 million transfer from the ARPA funds. So without those, that transfer, the revenues were a little over $3.9 million. For 2 years ago, the revenues were a little over $4 million, which were 15% of the budget. For expenditures this year, we're at over $8.8 million, which is 27% of the budget. Last year at this time, we were at $8.7 million, which was also 27% of the budget. And 2 years ago, we were at $8.4 million, which was 31% of the budget.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And from Public Works, Nick Hager.
Good evening. Palm Drive North, the contractors continue at Palm Drive on the northbound side of Palm. They're continuing flat work, which includes ADA ramps, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, span rails, and cross gutters. Mountain View resurfacing project. This project is completed. Improvements that were within the city limits include new ADA sidewalk approaches, street resurfacing, new striping patterns, including Detail 31, which is two-way left turn lanes, and new stop sign legends, bars, and edge lines. The Mountain View and Dillon Road signal upgrade. The county is upgrading their signal hardware and in the control cabinets. There is a back order on the hardware. Once the hardware is installed, county will notify the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And from our Executive Program Director, Roberta Cernick, please.
Thank you. So as part of a grant we received to add more outdoor hiking activities to the Desert Hot Springs Recreation Center, we joined the Agents of Discovery app platform. And the best part about this app is that residents, visitors, children, and families can use it. It's not just the kids at the recreation center. So we are really excited to officially launch the app to the community. And here's a little bit about the app. So what is the Agents of Discovery app? It's the winner of the 2020 Society of Outdoor Recreation Professionals Excellence Award, is an innovative educational tech platform that utilizes web, mobile, and the latest in augmented reality technologies to get kids active and learning about the world around them. Agents of Discovery provides educators with a unique way to gamify information, incentivizing kids to be active while learning and exploring. The Agents of Discovery is an educational tech platform that offers you opportunity to play reality mobile games called missions at our local parks and hiking trails. Site-specific missions inspire curiosity and engagement, which studies show help kids retain information while having fun and being active and safe. So we were able to create our own Desert Hot Springs avatar, which is the lizard you see on the screen there. Sorry. So you can join the Agents of Discovery app by downloading the app. There's a QR code there on that flyer. I will be posting that on Facebook tomorrow. It is up on our website. So after you download the app, you look for missions located here in Desert Hot Springs that you want to play. You can preload the missions and head out to start completing your challenges and explore the great outdoors. So the trails and parks available are Swiss Canyon Trail, Kim Nickel Trail Loop, Long Canyon Trailhead, and Mission Springs Park. Just in case you're not into hiking, you can still do some of the challenges here at one of our local parks. And just a reminder, our Veterans Day ceremony is Friday, November 11th. It does begin at 10 a.m. at Veterans Park. And also our veterans banners are up along Pearson. So I do encourage you to drive by and see all of the photos honoring our local veterans. And our Parade of Lights and Holiday Festival is Saturday, December 10th, and it starts at 5:45. This year's theme is Musical Madness, and I am encouraging everyone that wants to participate in the parade to please send their applications. The deadline I must receive your application no later than Thursday, November 17th. That is all.
Thanks, Roberta. And finally, we have an update from our Deputy City Manager, Doria Wilms.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and community. Just a quick update to let everyone know we are gearing up already for the next season of Little League. And so currently we do have a call out to the community. We're seeking umpires and members to join our advisory board. And we're asking folks to submit applications for both by November 3rd. Anybody that's interested or has questions should reach out to Denise Abriel here at the city and she could assist. Thank you.
Thanks, Doria. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We're going to start on this end tonight. Mr. Betts.
Mayor, I don't know, maybe I just let Roberta run everything. That's all the fun stuff, right?
She has a fun job.
Keep doing a good job there. I'm looking forward to those events. Could we get an update on Tranquility Park at some point in time? I know it's been asked a few times, and the fence went up. I'd like to see when that's going to actually get started. Maybe at the next council meeting. Could you have something for us?
Sure.
Great, thanks. And then let's see where we're at. Health and Wellness Center, Wellness and Job Fair, great event, good work on that. I think it was pretty well attended, and I went through a little early, but I was really happy to see that. I attended a meeting at Sunline, and the big news there for our riders is that in the month of November, we will be going back to a 20-minute schedule. We've been on a 40-minute schedule. Now, note I said the month of November, and there's 30 days in November, so if it doesn't fall in place, we're having a whole lot of trouble like other people are getting employees and drivers, but that's what they said was safe to announce, so I've announced it. The October 29th Halloween event was, again, spectacular, really nice to see all the kids out there. Now I know why there were fewer kids in our neighborhood. Apparently they're all at the spa in the Miracle Springs, but it was good fun last night. I'll be attending the SCAG meeting on Thursday, and I understand there's some great news out of CVEP. I wasn't able to make that meeting, but I'm guessing somebody here is going to pass that news along, so I'll just let them do that. The Salton Sea Authority will be holding a forum on December 3rd. You probably heard that the solution for the Salton Sea is to take water from the Colorado River. That was out of a state panel in Santa Cruz, and yes, that sounds as crazy to me and a bunch of others as it probably does to you. In case you hadn't heard, the Colorado River's coming up short on water, so how they figure they're going to solve the Salton Sea problems by tapping into the Colorado River, I don't know. But there'll be a forum on December 3rd at UCR. I'll be moderating. It'll be a panel discussion, and the event is sponsored by the Salton Sea Coalition, so I would encourage everybody to attend that. And the last item I have is, as I watch the news reports, Portland and Seattle, LA, where you see these motorhomes that are lined up and the homeless issues that they're dealing with. And, everybody, it's a huge problem trying to figure out what to do about the homeless. I mean, it's the number one challenge, I think, in this state. And, but I always ask myself, when I see these newsreels of the video and all the trash and litter around, I go, okay, so you've got all these homeless parked there. Where is the city to go and do the cleanup? And we don't have nearly as big a problem as they do in those cities, but I would like to see if we can get something going to where we are very actively making the rounds in the places where we know that these have been set up. I'm thinking behind King's Liquor, there's an alleyway there. I drove past it today. It looked like somebody had gotten in there and cleaned it up. A woman named Josie, who lives behind there, has been volunteering to clean that up, but I don't think it's right that it should fall on our citizens. I think we got to get a city work crew together, dedicate the resources. If you need this council to authorize some funds for that, but we got to go around and, in front of the nail salon there on, where's that, between Kauai and wherever else on Palm Drive. And I think at least until we figure out, this program that we're working on and get that presented and approved and moving forward, we could certainly, in the meantime, dedicate some resources to at least making sure the town doesn't look littered in the areas where the homeless are concentrating. So if we could get that moving, I'd certainly be happy. And for that, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sitting here shocked that it's November already. I didn't have any outside committee meetings since our last council session, but I do have a couple of things I want to note here. We had a really nice event at the Senior Center last week. Congressman Dr. Raul Ruiz and U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Secretary Javier Becerra, visited our Senior Center and promoting vaccinations and offered COVID boosters and flu shots. I got both, one in each arm, and it's not every day your congressman who happens to be a doctor gives you your vaccinations, so that was kind of fun. He hasn't lost his touch, although he hasn't practiced medicine quite as much, so great to see so many of our seniors there enjoying breakfast, meeting their congressmen, and I hope they'll do some events like that in the future. Attended the College of the Desert Foundation lunch and the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership breakfast. At the CVEP event, they gave us a book of stats, and they were all amazing about the economic picture for the valley, and the presenters were rather confident we wouldn't see a recession this year, maybe a slight one in 2023. But the most amazing stats about the valley and our city in particular that they presented was one that really, really stood out, and that was the crime rate. And I know all of us up here have been frustrated with the perception that crime is out of control in Desert Hot Springs and always has been. Well, in the 10 years span from 2011 to 2021, Desert Hot Springs fell from the highest rate of property crime in the desert to the lowest. The lowest. Okay? For violent crime, we again fell from the highest in 2011 to the third lowest in the valley in 2021. But the best figure of all was the
2001. You keep saying 2011.
2011 and 2021, you're right.
It's 2001 to
2021.
2021.
Well, it's good news, you know.
But
so-
it
Yeah, it's great news. We just want to make sure you got the right
Wait,
dates.
the
'cause
right
it makes
dates
it even
there.
better. It's
But the best figure of all, though, was the total crime. We fell from, again, the highest in the valley to the lowest. DHS, according to the Department of Justice statistics, has the lowest crime rate in the valley of any valley cities. I want you all to remember that. It is so frustrating when we see on social media and in the media, even tonight, KESQ did a little piece where they said that seniors were being defrauded even in Desert Hot Springs. They just threw us in there for no reason whatsoever. They didn't show any film. They didn't do anything else. There is a perception out there that this place is dangerous, and it is not. And we need to start spreading the word out. So next time somebody tells you that DHS is a dangerous place to live and that crime is rampant, please set them straight. And we have to give them an outstanding shout out to our police staff. They deserve the credit here. Chief, Deputy Chief, you guys are doing fantastic. It shows when you look at that graph, when it's projected on a screen, and there's a red line that shows 2011 in Desert Hot Springs, and it's all the way over here. And then we have a green line for 2021, and it's all the way over here. It's amazing. You guys, thank you for everything. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Nunez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, that's exciting to see. I guess what we can spin this is maybe it's the small crimes that we need to worry about in the city. In the month of October, I've had 2 break-ins in my car. The first time I did report it. Second time was just past this Friday to Saturday night. They didn't take anything, just ravaged through my car. These are the small things that don't get reported and small things that what we need to do to fix small crimes. And I'm glad to see that, our higher crimes and property crimes, robbery, homicide is all down. But again, it's never going to stop until we can get a fix on it. I have a feeling that there's maybe a homeless encampment nearby, only because I had getting some work done in my house in the front yard, and the people working in my yard, we had a woman that was under the influence come to my house while they're working and try to bugging them, just hanging around, fidgeting, dancing, repeating herself. They finally had to tell her to leave, so she left. But she just came from the desert. So I'm thinking there's some homeless encampments out there. They might be using drugs out there, might be doing things out there. So we might be vigilant of what's going on out there. But I'm glad to see that the crime rate is down. But it doesn't stop there. We need to do more, maybe some more patrolling. So whatever we need to do, we got to make sure our residents feel safe, not only show statistics about valley-wide, but here in the city, we need to make sure our residents feel safe. Secondly, attended the Senior Center event with Congressman Raul Reese. Very important event. This is the first time I got to engage with the seniors there. And while I can say they pulled me aside, I had 4 different seniors pull me aside to tell me about issues that they're having, that they're not getting addressed. One of them, I was hoping that the new director of the Senior Center would be here, Francisco Castro. I told him to come tonight, and I'll introduce him as a new director for the Senior Center. Very good guy. The seniors love him there. Staff love him there. But there seems to be a lot of issues with the homeless there also. We are starting a new program with the Senior Center to have some of the homeless population get services there, but it seems to be a problem with the seniors, and there's been a couple incidents already where they had to escort some of the homeless out of there for using the restroom right in front of the doors. So I think the program that we're trying to establish, I think it's great. I think it's well needed, but it's got to be maintained. It's got to be policed. It's got to be supervised. So how do we do that? I think we can have staff and council look at see what we can do to help minimize the issues that they're having at the Senior Center. I do believe we need to set up a meeting with the Senior Center to see what our issues are. That way we can start addressing them. Because I mean, as a new council member, or fairly new council member, talking to the seniors, they did not seem happy. So that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor, if I could respond to that, we do not have a homeless program at the senior center. I think there's some confusion there. And we actually, we did meet with Frank this morning. He'll be at the next council meeting.
Great. So it wasn't necessarily the program, but I guess the homeless think there's a program there, so they try to go in to get food, they try to go in there, use the restroom, they try to use the facilities, but when they go in there, it's more of a agitation thing. And so that's what it
Understood.
is.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to clear the record, because we're trying to keep the message that there is a homeless program there from going out. So there is not.
Ms. Pike?
City manager answered that, and people have already talked about where I've been, so I'm done.
And I'll try to be short. I just wanted to again announce that the State of the City this year will be November 17th at the Health and Wellness Center, hosted by the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce. So many different graders in Palm Springs and whatever. So you can get your tickets online. If you have any questions, you can call our city hotline there, and I'm sure they'll help guide you. It won't be live streamed this year, but we will be recording and it'll be out on YouTube after. So if you can't make it, we'll be able to show it later. So pretty excited with all the different announcements that we have coming up. Obviously the crime stats are fantastic and things we've been talking about for years here that hopefully people will truly understand in the future. Again, it was already announced by Doria Williams that Little League is moving forward. It's one of the programs I support in the community. I've supported it for many years. I was asked to be the umpire in chief this year. It's something that I have a passion for, and we're looking for umpires in the community. So I know there's some flyers going out, and not just signups for kids, but we got to have the volunteers to help run the program. So if you're interested in umpiring, there will be some meetings coming up soon for training and other things like that. If you just want to give back and you don't know how to umpire, we'll train you how to umpire. So check in with the city here. They'll get you the dates and the program. And if you can't make the first meeting, you're more welcome to come at future meetings. I was asked to speak by the Palm Springs Unified School District at the Diversity and Racial Equity Conference was that last Saturday? Yeah, last Saturday, because the event for what event did you go to at the Health and Wellness Center? I'm sorry, the Job fair. Thank you. Gosh, I'm missing words tonight. Job fair. The job fair, I wasn't able to attend that because I was over at the other one. Ms. Pye and I both attended that. She attended in the morning. I attended in the afternoon. I was asked to sit on a panel with 4 other elected officials through the valley, and then 4 other school. There was 8 of us total. The other 4 were from school districts. It was a good conversation to have, and it was the first one here in the valley. Really saw a lot of faces from Desert Hot Springs, and it was very nice to be asked to speak at that event. The Downtown Pearson Committee met this last week, and we're moving forward on a plan we'll be bringing to the City Council very soon. Very excited about all that plan that's going on for the downtown Pearson area. Also, as stated, I attended the College of the Desert State of the College event, which was held last week, and it was good information on what's coming forth for the College of the Desert. Was not able to attend the senior center event with the congressman. Unfortunately, it was kind of last minute getting the notices to us. I think 4 of them were able to attend. I just was not. I had a work meeting that morning. So thank you for everybody stepping in and making the congressman feel comfortable, and thank you for getting the concerns from the seniors. I don't think there's a time I've shown up there that there hasn't been a few that pulled me aside too, and everybody's got some great opinions, but whatever we can do to help make them feel comfortable and get those going, that'd be great. So we'll set up that meeting, as you said, with the director and make sure that we're getting the information to them, and we'll get down there and do some presentations if we need to, whatever we got to do to help them out. This Saturday, as we spoke about a couple of meetings ago, the city approved the cleanup committee, myself and Mr. Nunez's cleanup committee's proposal to help businesses and neighborhoods, and one of the programs is an educational program with the schools. The first 2 schools that have going to be our pilot is Painted Hills Middle School and Bella Vista Elementary at the north end of the city. Saturday morning, I believe at 8 o'clock, Desert Valley Disposal and Mr. Nunez will be there to help lead the efforts with the committee of Jim Nadell and Jackie Devereaux, and they'll be picking up trash. So if you're interested, please come by, and I'm sure. I think they're going to meet in the parking lot of Bella Vista. And so they'll be there from 8 in the morning till probably for a couple hours, just picking up some trash. It's more of an educational program with the kids to get in, teach them where recycling goes. And with SB, is it 1383? Am I going to get that right? With the organic waste recycling coming up, it's very important that we continue to educate everybody on how that should happen in the future, and how you should recycle your organic waste. And then I wrote something else down, but I can't seem to understand my own writing, so it's not that important. Oh, I figured it out. I wanted to thank Mr. Nunez made a suggestion to our executive program director to invite our assemblyman, Eduardo Garcia, as the Grand Marshal of this year's parade. He's accepted, and he will be our Grand Marshal. I think it's wonderful. Assemblyman Garcia has done a lot for our community over the time that he has served us, and he will not be our assemblyman in about a week. So I think it doesn't take place till January, but technically, as of the 8th, we'll know who the new assembly person will be for the newly formed district, which is District 43? 47, and so District 56 will move down east-wise, but Mr. Assemblyman Garcia deserves to be recognized for his contributions to our community. So it'd be great to have him here. So I wanted to make that announcement. That's all I have today. We are going to move to public hearings. Our first hearing is the Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee, the TUMF inflation adjustment for calendar year 2023. Mr. Brissell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item before you is the TUMF inflation adjustment for calendar year 2023. TUMF background: the Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee was established in 1989 as a one-time impact fee charged on all new development occurring within the CVAG region. Monies collected through the TUMF program are applied to the transportation-related capital facilities and infrastructure required to serve new growth within the Coachella Valley and are intended to complement revenue generated through the Riverside County's Measure A sales tax. To date, TUMF has provided less than the intended share of match toward Measure A funding. The current TUMF rates are were adopted in 2018 upon the completion of a revised Nexus study, transportation project prioritization study, regional arterial cost estimate, and active transportation plan. Right. Prior to their adoption, the fee had remained unchanged at $192 trip for over a decade. The 2018 Nexus study originally proposed a revised fee of $751 per trip. However, this fee was reduced to the current $245 a trip after reevaluating which regional transportation projects would likely be built in the near term. The TUMF Consumer Price Index, an inflation factor of 2.1% was applied across each CVAG's TUMF categories by the executive committees at their June 2021 meeting in accordance with California's Mitigation Fee Act, and to allow member jurisdictions time to update their local TUMF ordinances as needed. Implementation of the inflation factor did not go into effect until January 1st, 2022. The CPIU, or all items for Riverside County, or Riverside, San Bernardino, Ontario metropolitan area, rose by 8.24% in 2021, largely due to steep increases in the cost of motor fuel and, to a lesser extent, household energy. Motor fuel prices increased almost 50% over the course of 2021, rebounding from a market low point during the initial wave of the coronavirus pandemic. BLS notes that some entities chose to calculate core inflation on the CPIU, less food and energy, which includes motor fuel, as these items tend to be more volatile in their pricing. Removing these volatile items from the regional CPI results in an inflation factor of 5.83%. However, because motor fuel constitutes a significant cost component for the construction of TUMF-supported projects, CVAG staff recommended applying the full inflation factor to the current assessments as described in the table. Discussion: CVAG is deferring the implementation of TUMF fee adjustments of 8.24% until January 1st, 2023. The City of Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code states that the fee adjustments of this type need to go before City Council. The revised rates would be implemented on January 1st, 2023, so that the member jurisdictions will have sufficient time to amend local ordinances such as this. The rates listed in the TUMF handbook will also be updated at that time to reflect the adjustment. Fiscal impact, the 2018 transportation uniform mitigation fee will increase an additional 8.24% to account for the inflation that occurred over the course of 2021. The increase will result in an additional TUMF revenue to fund regional transportation projects that are identified in the Transportation Project Prioritizing Study Report, TPPS. This fee is a pass-through fee that is collected by the City of Desert Hot Springs and paid to the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, so there is no fiscal impacts on city funds. The adoption of this ordinance is categorically exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3, because it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the adoption of this ordinance in question may have a significant effect on the environment. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution of the City Council adopting the fee adjustment to the Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee Act, or TUMF, pursuant to Coachella Valley Association of Governments requests. And also, Peter Satin from CVAG is in the audience as well, and I am here to answer any questions, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to public comments first. If anybody in the public would like to speak on this item, you may come forth to speak on this item. Or actually, I'm sorry, I got to add, this is a public hearing. Let me entertain questions. Is there any specific questions to staff, not comments, just specific questions before I open the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing at this time. We'll take any testimony in favor, opposed, or neutral position. Would anybody like to come forward, give any testimony? See nobody coming forward, we'll close the public comments this time. We'll open up for city council discussion. I'm going to say a couple things real quick, then I'll move down the line. Everybody, no matter who you speak with today, are increasing their fees by sometimes upwards of, most of them are averaging out about 5%. The CPI is set, no matter which industry you're in, anywhere from 7.5% to 8.5%. So everyone's trying to keep their increases up. And so when I saw 2.1 increase, I was like, wow, this is actually not bad at all, comparably to the economy the way it is right now. I remember the discussion at CVAG at that time, and we lowered the fees compared to what they were, and especially in comparison to the Western Valleys or the Western County. So I think it's fair. It's been voted on by the executive committee in 2021. I just think this is routine. So that's mine. Mr. Betts?
Thanks. So just for the benefit of the public, TUMF is collected on
construction.
On construction, for each one of those that we saw listed there. And then we take that money into the city, and then we transfer it down to CVAG.
Which pays 75% of the usually in the top 10% of regional projects, and we have to come up with 25%.
And then we're down there lobbying for our share of that money, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think so.
so are we getting our fair share? Are you out there making the pitch for us?
I think we are. I think from RCTC down to CVAG, I think we're usually in the top 10 on projects, and if they fund them, we're pretty close to being funded on most of our projects.
Okay. I haven't looked at the list in a while. When we had the Indian Canyon project on there, was a big one. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, okay, good, thank you.
Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion, and then Peter can go home.
I move that we adopt the Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee Inflation Adjustment calendar year 2023.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second as soon as it comes up on the board. Any other discussion? And please vote. You press second
there. Councilmember Nunez?
Oh, my God.
There it goes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Sorry, Peter, you drew the short straw. I had to come all the way up here today, but no. Please feel free to hang out with us if you really want to. Next item on the agenda is item number 2, which is the amended housing element for the 6th cycle. Eric, is that you again?
That would be myself.
All right.
Okay, so this is for the housing element amendment. So just real briefly, what is a housing element? Housing element is a state mandated policy document within the City of Desert Hot Springs general plan that provides direction for the implementation of various programs to meet existing and projected future housing needs for all income levels within the Desert Hot Springs community. The housing element provides policies, programs, and actions that accommodate growth, produce opportunity for the development of new housing units, preserve existing and future housing stock, and assist the existing population. The amendment needs to be reviewed by HCD for compliance with its connection to the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RHNA, numbers that have been assessed for the City of Desert Hot Springs. So what is RHNA? The general plans, in general, I'll kind of go over the whole thing. General plans serve as the local government's blueprint for how the city and or county will grow and develop, and include 7 elements: land use, transportation, conservation, noise, open space, safety, and housing. In order to create a housing plan or housing element showing it could meet the local housing needs, a jurisdiction must first show how much housing it must plan for and estimate how much will be needed at a variety of affordability levels in order to match the needs of the people who will live there. This is determined by a process called the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. RHNA is the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, which is the number of market rate and below market rate housing units that Southern California Association of Government determines are necessary to meet the needs of new residents during the current 8-year cycle in all its cities and counties. The discussion, the amendment is for the 6th cycle housing element. So housing element is one of 7 mandated elements of the general plan. It must be updated every 8 years unless otherwise extended by state legislation. The City of Desert Hot Springs housing element covers the planning period from October 15, 2021 to October 15, 2029. On November 2nd, 2021, the City Council adopted the housing element for the 6th cycle, which is 2021 to 2029, and staff transmitted the adopted document to the Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, for its review. Here's a timeline. We're actually nearly almost 1 year from when it was adopted. As you can see, we've progressed through to just recently, October 10th. I won't go over all the timelines, but on October 10th, additional comment letter was received and presented to all the planning commissioners prior to that public hearing. The PC approved staff's recommendation, and here it is today. We have not received an additional letter. The environmental analysis in November of 2021, when the City Council adopted the housing element, it found that 1, the project is exempt from the CEQA guidelines, 14 California Code, Regs Section 15061B3, because it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the adoption of this resolution in question may have a significant effect on the environment as set forth in Section 21080.17 of the Public Resources Code. The project involves policies, programs, and actions to meet the city's RHNA allocation that either would not cause a significant effect on the environment or incorporates actions, SR actions that have already been taken by the city pursuant to the general plan amendment as defined below. As a matter of fact, the city's fair share of the regional housing needs for the 2021 through 2029 period is much lower than the previous period. The current need for the 6th cycle is 3,873 units, which is much lower than the previous cycle's housing needs, which was 7,459 units. Instead, due to the lower number of the city's fair share of the regional housing need for the 2021 through 2029 period, proposed impacts are much lower than those that were previously analyzed. Based on these factors, it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the proposed 6th cycle housing element would have a significant effect on the environment. Therefore, the 6th cycle housing element is exempt from CEQA under the common sense exemption. With that, we have a recommendation to adopt a resolution of the Planning Commission that the City Council, 1, find the city's previous determination that the project, the housing element for the 6th cycle, is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act stands because the amendments will not change the reasons for the exemption, which are outlined in the resolution. And 2, adopt the amendments of the housing element for the 6th cycle, 2021 through 2029. And 3, direct staff to provide an amended housing element for the 6th cycle to the Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD. And that concludes my report, and I am here to answer any questions. We also have Nicole Chris, our consultant who drafted the housing element, as well, here to answer any questions. And that is it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for the update there. This is exciting to get this done. And then we can get on track to make sure we don't ever get behind. With that said, do we have any specific questions to staff before I open it up to public comments, and then we'll get into your general comments if you like?
My question is for you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't have the answer, but I'll try.
You want to take this in 3 separate actions, or just we can do this one?
I think we can take it as one item, could we not? One action?
So yeah, the city council could take the entire thing as one item, if it so desires, of course, after we open the public hearing and take
Sure.
testimony.
Yeah, if everybody's comfortable and you want to make a recommendation for the whole item, we can. All right, I have no other questions from council to staff right now. I'll open up the public hearing at this time, and we'll take testimony in favor, opposed, or neutral position. Would anybody like to come forth and give any testimony on this item? I see nobody coming forth. Last call. We will close the public hearing, and I'll open up to city council discussion. Ms. Pye, I'll start with this end.
I just wanted to say the council member Betts worked really hard to get those numbers down.
The arena numbers, correct. Mr. Nunez.
Just had a very well report. I'm excited to move forward. We have to make sure we take care of this.
Mr. Carter?
Well, the best thing is we're on time this time. We're not going to get in trouble. So, no, good job. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's over, and I'll agree with my colleague, Councilmember Pye. It's a lot of hard work to get those arena numbers down, and those meetings are as exciting as watching paint dry. So I'm glad that Mr. Betts attended and did all of that work.
Mr. Betts?
So I remember when our mayor had to make the trip to Long Beach. We were one of 40 cities that were in the governor's sites as not being in compliance. And my understanding is HCD has said we look good, and our staff has taken this very seriously and done a very good job, and I'm really happy to see that. We got in a bit of trouble, and I just, this is probably the best team I've seen assembled in the years that I've been up here on this council, and it just really does me good to see that you guys have taken this challenge and really come forward with it and made it work. The talk all over Southern California is, okay, so we got these numbers, we've planned for this, but how do we actually get the housing? And we've got a challenge there, just like every other city does, because when it finally gets done, this plan turns into action. I would say where the rubber meets the road, but that'd be something for transportation. So somebody come up with an analogy for building new housing. But an extremely low category, to meet that category, we need 284 units. And that doesn't seem to be beyond our reach to go out and find some grants or something. And then I forget the exact number for there's extremely low, and then low is about that same amount. A couple of good projects with a couple of good grants, and we could provide some much needed housing and not just say, hi, HCD, we got our plan done, but we're actually going to be one of the few California cities that have met it. So I think if we set a goal here as this council with all that we're getting done, that we could probably figure out a way to get a couple of those units going. I'd like to ask staff to double their efforts to try and find, and then if the council agrees, to find some way to get this housing built. And let's see if we can take it one step further. When the TV cameras shining on us and they say, well, how'd you guys get that done? Well, because we wanted to. So anyhow, that would be my comments on this, and if appropriate time, I'd sure like to make the motion on this one.
Where the hammer meets the nail.
Hammer meets the nail, I'll take it.
You like that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
All right, please make the motion.
Okay, a motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council to find the city's previous determination that the project, where is it? I'm reading.
Staff recommendation?
I could do that, but sound a little more official, but okay. You know what, we're just going to go with staff recommendation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr.
That'll
Mayor.
cut the meeting down by 10 minutes.
We'll keep the meeting short.
Everything is combined into the one resolution, so,
And
or all resolutions, amendments, everything on there, staff recommending the whole thing.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. If there's no other discussion, please vote.
That's a good one.
Motion passes unanimously.
Last public hearing tonight is going to be on the adoption of the 2000, oh, I'm sorry, did you have to read anything for the resolution? No? Okay. The adoption of the 2022 Building and Fire Codes. Eric, again? Or is this going to someone else?
It would be myself,
Hey.
if you guys are okay with that.
Hey, since you're the starter tonight. Go for it.
Wonderful. So this is in regards to the adoption of the 2022 Building and Fire Codes. So why update? The California Building Standards, or BSC, which is set forth in Title 24 of the California Code of Regulations, is a compilation of building standards, including the California Building Code, Plumbing Code, Mechanical Code, Electrical Code, Fire Code, and others. Each of these codes are based on corresponding national or uniform model code standards. The BSC is updated by the state of California on a triennial basis, and the 2022 edition of the BSC was published on July 1st, 2022, and with an effective date of January 1st, 2023. The BSC applies throughout California, and each part of the BSC constitutes as a separate California code. The city may adopt by reference the BSC along with amendments, provided the amendments are based on findings that the amendments are necessary due to local climatic, topographic, or geological conditions. Title 15 of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code currently references the 2019 edition of the various building codes. The adoption of the most recent building codes will update the municipal code and ensure that all building safety measures are met and standards are implemented. Discussion, the city's building official is recommending adoption of the 2022 edition of the BSC with no amendments. The city's fire officials are recommending certain fire amendments are listed in the attached exhibit seen in your staff report due to specific regional conditions. In order to adopt the 2022 edition of the BSC and all recommended fire amendments, staff has drafted 2 ordinances, one for building codes, one for fire codes. If enacted, these ordinances will take effect on the same date as the 2022 edition of the BSC on January 1st, 2023. The building code ordinance, it references the first proposed ordinance seeks to adopt the following 22 editions of the BSC: building code, residential code, electrical code, mechanical code, plumbing code, energy code, historical building code, existing building code, green building standards code, and reference standards code. The above reference standards codes are being adopted without substantive changes. As a result, no findings are required to make the local amendments. In addition, this proposed ordinance adopts the 2022 International Property Maintenance Code, which is a non-BSC code. The International Property Maintenance Code provides additional standards that are useful for the code compliance divisions to apply, especially in areas of light, ventilation, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical requirements. Since this code is not part of the BSC, no findings are required for any local amendments. Fire code ordinance. Staff has worked with the city's fire officials to develop a second ordinance, the main purpose which is to adopt the 2022 California Fire Code, subject to local amendments that are more stringent than the state-adopted standards. As a result, findings based on local climatic, topographical, or geographical conditions are necessary to support the amendments. These findings are listed in the ordinance. The local amendments are necessitated by the conditions of the city, including but not limited to long periods of high temperatures, strong winds, proximity to fault lines, and road circulation. The link to the entire code set of the 2022 BSC, which includes the fire code found in Chapter 9, was provided in the staff report. The adoption of this ordinance is categorically exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA pursuant CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3, because it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the adoption of this ordinance in question may have a significant effect on the environment. Recommendation, introduced for first reading and but read by title only. 1, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs amending Title 15, Buildings and Construction of Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code to adopt the 2022 edition of the California Building Code, California Residential Code, California Electrical Code, California Mechanical Code, California Plumbing Code, California Energy Code, California Historical Building Code, California Existing Building Code, California Green Building Standards Code, California Reference Standards Code, and International Property Maintenance Code, and to adopt local revisions to those codes with selected appendices and amendments. And B, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs amending Chapter 15.22 California Fire Code of Title 15 Buildings and Construction of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code to adopt the 2022 edition of the California Fire Code with selected appendices and amendments. And that concludes my report, and I am here to answer any questions. I also have CAL FIRE here in the audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Our first item is to entertain any questions of the council to staff, if you have any, before I open the public hearing. Yes, sir.
So I appreciate the time that staff spent with me today with fire to go over a couple of things. And my understanding from that conversation, I just want to clarify that now, is that there are certain mandatory changes that we have to make because the state legislature is passed it from down on high, and that's it. We don't have a choice in the matter. We've got to update our codes to match that. And then there's optional changes where we can make the code tougher if we want to, usually based on environmental conditions. Like one of them is wind. We have higher winds here, so maybe we require more hurricane clips for the trusses or whatever it is that we do on a code. But my understanding is there's nothing in the fire code section that's changing except for remote fueling. And that was a conversation we had today. So I just wanted to ask that question. Is my understanding correct?
Yes, sir.
Good. And then the building code, there isn't anything that we're making tougher. And then I'll save my comments on the California building code until later, but I got my basic question answered. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for staff? I'm going to open the public hearing right now. We don't have a lot of people in the audience, so I'll first call up Mr. King. Mr. King, when you do address the council, can you say if you're in favor, opposed, or neutral position, please, when you start?
You have to speak up a little bit to my hearing aids come in. It was an advantage to be hard of hearing when my wife was still alive. So anyway, yeah, I think what I'm here for, because it's a really important issue, and it's a really important issue for the city. And most of the people here are new, but I spent an enormous amount of time behind the scenes trying to make sure that what happened was the best for the city. I really have the city's heart in mind, even though I don't live here anymore. Everything is fine here, with the exception that I'm concerned about. On the fire code, it says with selected appendix and amendments. And so this is, the fire code. I got all the codes, and they're like this big to build a building. And when you do a large building, in order to make it qualify to be safe for fire, you have to provide firewalls, fire-rated structures, and also sprinklers. When you have substantially smaller little units like your boutique hotels, which is what I'm really concerned about, the boutique hotels, that before, what we would do is you had the option of putting fire sprinklers in there, or beefing up the walls so that every wall, for the most part, between every single unit, sleeping unit, you would have a 2-hour wall, which means if the fire started here, it would take 2 hours to burn over to the next one, and it would take another 2 hours to burn to the next one. So it would take 4 hours you'd have 4 hours for the fire truck to show up to put that fire out. The advantage of doing the firewalls instead of the sprinklers is there are projects in the past in Desert Hot Springs where they say, okay, we just want sprinklers. So you do the sprinklers, and then the contractor doesn't have to put in the firewalls. So what happens, let's say that's the project goes belly up, and the guy doesn't pay his water bill. Well, they turn off the water, and then some homeless person goes in there and they're cooking, and then the whole thing burns down. So that's what I'm trying to say, that sometimes when you look at things, it sounds good to require that all units are sprinklered, whether it's a large unit or a large project, a hospital. I mean, that all makes sense, a high rise. But when you have a little boutique hotel, 15, 20, 30 units, and you require this, a fire sprinkler on the average costs $150,000. In order to save the boutique hotels and for people to come in and invest in those boutique motels, you don't want to say, okay, well, no problem, spend the $100,000. Well, for a lot of us, money doesn't grow on trees, and it concerns me that the way I read this, and I could have read it wrong because I only had a few hours last night, and the code's this thick. But the amendment, to me, the way it's written, and I could be completely wrong on this, and if I am wrong, I apologize to everybody. But the way the amendment is written, it requires that you have to have fire sprinklers, period. Now, I'm okay for residential, there's some exceptions for other sort of things, agriculture buildings, that sort of thing. And that's fine if you're building a new house, because you put the fire sprinklers in before you put the drywall. But if you have an old boutique hotel and they have to add a new lobby, whatever, then it's new construction, then they got to put fire sprinklers in. There's $100,000. Plus, and I don't know if this is an issue or at all. When you put fire sprinklers in, you have to make sure that water line can pump enough water to feed those fire sprinklers and put that fire out. And there are a lot of times, there are certain areas where some of these old hotels are that you don't have enough water going through the mains. So my suggestion is to keep this code, keep the amendment, which the fire department is proposing, where you take part of the fire code out and put their thing in there. That's okay. But I think that we need to have protection for the boutique spa hotels. And I'm hoping that might be specific, because the way I read it, you're going to have to put fire sprinklers in any old structure, no matter what, if it's in any way modified. And that's $100,000. And what'll happen is that people won't do it, and the boutique hotels will fall in disrepair because it won't financially calculate out to spend that extra $100,000 to do it. So that's my major concern. I could be completely wrong. I read last night the amendment, and the way I read it, and I could be wrong, is that they're changing it so you have to put fire sprinklers in no matter what, no matter the size. And I'm all for fire sprinklers, but not when we're going to hurt our little boutique hotel. And if I'm right, and this amendment could, you might as well just take a bulldozer and bulldoze all your little hotels down, because eventually something's going to happen and they'll need something and they'll have to provide fire sprinklers and they won't be able to do it. So that's my main concern. I don't know I'm not trying to tell you guys what to do, but this isn't really important, because I've done projects where you live and die by this fire code and you try to make it work. And I want to do a safe building, and I'm not telling you to reduce the safety, because I'm applying this and the new code. But it's the amendment that I think needs to be, at the very least, analyzed more before you pass that. Or to say something kind of like the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, say something like, that the spa hotel, the boutique hotels will be protected, existing, not new, but
Mr. King,
existing
your point's been made, so is there anything extra to add at this point?
Was that?
Your point's been made, so is there anything extra that you would like to add to this?
Well, so they have the option of like on the hotel that I built, I created 2-hour firewalls and 4-hour firewalls.
Mm-hmm.
And that hotel had burned down previously because there were no firewalls. And the
we understand that.
owner who went bankrupt,
we
turned off the
understand all
power
that.
and the
So
whole thing burned down.
So at this point, you've made your point to the city council on what you believe is you should be on the amendment. So is there anything extra to add to that?
Yeah, and it's just a concern of mine, and most of the time I always tell people I hope I'm wrong, and I'm always right, and I hope I'm wrong, and maybe I'll be wrong this time, and that'll be a great thing. Okay, well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in favor, opposed, or in neutral position of this item? I see nobody coming forth. We're going to close the public hearing at this time, and we're going to open up for city council discussion. We'll start down here. Mr. Betts.
First, I want to thank Gabriel for all his past service here to the city and obvious expertise he has. I don't know how anybody reads the California Building Code and follows it, much less the fire code, and it's just a very difficult thing. So turning all that into a building is quite a chore for anybody who's trying to plan one and build one. My understanding of the question that was raised just a moment ago is that this does not apply to anything that was an existing use. That was what came out of our meeting today. So if something came into this world as a boutique spa hotel, and it's going to be renovated, and somebody's going to say, hey, we had 40 of them at one time. I don't know how many, you probably know how many we had. Let's just say 40. And a lot of them are sitting idle right now, but could come back, and you know, some of them are being renovated. This sprinkler requirement won't apply to those unless they're doing, like, adding on a new wing, some significant new construction. And so as long as that's our understanding here, and that's the assurance I can provide the public, then I'm okay. I got a lot of calls on this from... Is that a question? No, I'm making a statement. Oh, I'm sorry. It's time for discussion, right?
Yeah, I thought maybe you had a question.
No. So, well, you know, I'm just repeating what my understanding was so that it's clear on the record of the meeting that that's the way things are going. So I've received some calls from people who are planning to build and people who are in the business of doing this now, and they had this concern. So I did find the ordinance a real challenge to read, and I spent probably 2-3 hours trying to decipher that, and I hope next time we can get a better job on that one. Sorry, whoever wrote that, but it was too hard to follow. That's the only other... Oh, Gabriel, stick around. I want to have lunch with you after the meeting, okay? Sorry.
Good.
Don't leave. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Mr. Gardner? Mr. Nunez?
Our fire officials here, why not have them answer some of the questions that was raised tonight? That's it.
There was a concern raised tonight on that. Did the council want to, I have a council member who wants to hear about that. Do you have any comments from the fire side?
Yeah, Councilmember Betts's recollection of our meeting that we had earlier today is accurate. The fire code doesn't, for adding a sprinkler system, does not require for an existing building. If a regular remodel doesn't expand the footprint of the building, generally speaking, unless it's a super detailed, very, very wide scope project, that the sprinkler ordinance would not apply. However, if the building is going to be expanded substantially with a footprint or significant changes in the building, say the location of the kitchen versus moving it to the other side of the building where there didn't used to be a kitchen, those sort of things would be on a case-by-case basis of the building official and the office of the fire marshal to review.
Anything else?
Yeah, I just think it's important that, you know, when we see our city grow, and especially we're seeing remodeling of the resorts, small boutique resorts, it's important for them to want to be a part of standards and codes, and especially new ones. So no matter how you see it, if you're going to do a remodel, I think it's important that we follow the fire codes, and it's just better for business. It's better for turn around and selling the resort later. It's all the investments and improvements that are put into it, and I think it's important that we keep that standard. That's it.
Ms. Pye, anything?
I agree with Mr. Nunez, and I agree with him where he said if there is a difference in the blueprint, that the fire department will appropriately deal with that. I'm done.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney, we can take both ordinances together.
I would recommend, you can do that if the city council would like. It would be my recommendation, though, because there's two separate ordinances, to take them separately.
All right, so if someone is ready to make a motion, we'll take item number 9A, which is the ordinance of City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs amending Title 15.
I'll move an ordinance in City Council in City of Desert Hot Springs amending Title 15, building codes, listing all of the other building codes there under.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let that come up on the screen. If there's no more discussion, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council amending Title 15 Buildings and Construction of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code to adopt the 2022 edition of the California Building Code, California Residential Code, California Electrical Code, California Mechanical Code, California Plumbing Code, California Energy Code, California Historical Building Code, California Existing Building Code, California Green Building Standards Code, California Reference Standards Code, International Property Maintenance Code, and to adopt local revisions to those codes with selected appendices and amendments. The ordinance will return on November 15th for a second reading and adoption.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item B, which is the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs amending Chapter 15.2.
I'll move an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs amending Chapter 15.22, California Fire Code Title 15.
I will second.
There's a mover and a second.
Brief discussion?
Yes, please.
I just want to say that, you know, I've lived in other countries around the world, third world, and emerging economies. And when you see the lack of standards and what can take place, you know, this type of thing is so important. I want to thank our fire officials for having such a keen eye to making sure we're all safe. It's something very unique about this country. I don't think there's anywhere else in the world. Sometimes we might overdo it, but the idea is that it can be a whole lot worse. And so the only other thing is there's nothing like the California Building Code. I know we're not on that one, but to, you know, increase the cost of housing. So anyhow, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council amending Chapter 15.22 California Fire Code of Title 15 Buildings and Construction of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code to adopt the 2022 edition of the California Fire Code with selected appendices and amendments. The ordinance will return on November 15th for a second reading and adoption.
Thank you, Joe. We're going to move to the administrative calendar. Item number 4 is the award professional services agreement for police department recruiting services. Mr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Today, go over the city recruiting, our request for proposal scope of work, the project timeline, the consultant EPA recruiting highlights, and the staff recommendation. Just a brief history. Recently, the city, the region, and the state have seen an overall downward trend in officer recruitment due to limited applicants, which has had a direct impact in hiring and filling key vacant positions, including this city of Desert Hot Springs. In an effort to attract and recruit police officers to the city, staff drafted a police department recruiting services request for proposal in where we were seeking firms to complete the following scope of work. The firm was to do a brand development, research, and strategy for the recruitment, complete professional video and photography production, complete website design and hosting a recruitment website, and a 12-month online recruiting program. The timeline of the project was set when the request for proposal was released in September 12th. On October 10th, the proposals were due. The city received one proposal from Epic Recruiting. Tonight, November 1st, the staff recommendation is for City Council to award the professional services agreement. If it is awarded, the Epic Recruiting work will begin this fiscal year and will continue to the next fiscal year of 2023-2024. Just a brief highlights on Epic Recruiting. Staff reviewed the proposal from Epic Recruiting and found that they have met all qualifications. Some brief highlights from Epic Recruiting were that they were founded in 2004. They do provide some professional video, photography, and media. They provided some great sample videos and great sample pictures from other cities. Some city references were the City of Richmond, City of Calaveras, City of West Covina, City of La Habra, and City of Hayward. An interesting thing that we noticed was that the videos were customized to each city. They weren't just standard videos. Some of them were actually funny and joked around. Others were very serious. Others talked about the city itself. Others talked about the region, and others focused on specific key positions that city was looking for. Another item that we found very interesting in Epic Recruiting was the Google Analytics. The Epic Recruiting takes into account all the different variety that we're actually trying to reach out, different prospects of different police officers that we're trying to actually get this information to. Online recruiting campaign includes social media, banners, YouTubes, and pay-per-click. What that means is that they actually find out our needs, and when you receive a banner or you receive a social media post on your phone, it's directed directly towards you or directed directly towards that person or that type of person that we're looking for that will fit the qualifications for our city. So we were very impressed with their Google Analytics that they provide as part of their services. Based on the qualifications that Epic Recruiting was provided, staff is recommending that City Council authorize the city manager to execute the professional services agreement for the police department recruiting services with Epic Recruiting in the amount not to exceed $250,000 over 2 years. They did provide a very lengthy proposal that is actually attached to the staff report, and it does have some links that are provided with some of these videos and some of the marketing materials that they provided for samples. We also have Sam here, the CEO of the company here, so he can answer any questions related specifically to the company. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open up to public comments. Anybody like to speak on this item? I see nobody coming forth. We'll close public comments on this item, and I'll just make a few comments to start with. I think this is necessary. We fund, I think it's 33 police officers right now, or 33 for staffing. And we're always constantly looking to fill those positions, and we end up having to pay overtime. We end up, we don't lose a lot of good people because the good people usually stick around, but there are other positions out there that people are going to thrive for, and sometimes they're going to leave us. And then there's always the natural progression of individuals that just don't stay in law enforcement. So I think this is really going to be something that I really want to look forward to seeing and really getting out there and promoting our city. And I pray for that day we can say we're fully staffed. We have no more room. Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with you 100%. I remember bragging, it was maybe a year and a half ago, for that brief shining moment when we had all of our positions filled in the police department. And then something happens, and it's those things. We're not losing officers because we're not paying enough. We're not losing officers because this isn't a great place to work. But we could use some help recruiting new people here. And as I reiterated in my comments earlier about our dropping crime rate, there's nothing more important that a city does than public safety. And so I think this is much needed. I think we need to move forward with this at full speed, and I'm excited to see how well it develops and what you all can bring us. And we so enjoy having our new officers be pinned and have the whole ceremony here, and I would like a few more of those over the next couple of years. So I'm excited about this. I think we need to do it.
Anything?
Well, I'm looking at Russ Martin out in the audience, who has considerable expertise, and I don't see him stepping up the podium saying, no, don't do this. So that's we got a thumbs up out there, so that's good. And I think this is good. Sometimes the public will look and see $250,000, but it's over 2 years. And, this is equivalent to staffing. One person working full-time at this is what we need, and as the mayor said, and Gary, it's not 110%. I agree with the mayor 110%, okay? Not just 100. And so we very much need this to get done. So I'm all in favor of it.
What is this world coming to? You agreed with me.
No, I agree with you 110%. He only agreed with you 100%.
True, I know. Mr. Nunez?
Yes, just one question. Would this be a service that we can get for non-sworn officers or just officers in general?
We actually asked the same question. We're starting with the police department, and they do provide actually services for other departments as well, but we are starting with the police department first.
But would that be a part of our contract?
Not at this current contract. Currently just police department.
Can we tie it in somehow to this contract? I mean, $125,000 a year just for recruitment, it seems steep for me. Especially we can use it for other personnel in the police department.
It would be other personnel in the police department, not other departments. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Ms. Pino, I think you have something you want to say.
Our population is growing, and this is proactive, so that's a good thing.
You had something else to add, Mr. Beth?
No, next time I'll wait till Roger speaks so I can. So I think it's a good point he raised about the doing something towards non-sworn recruitment. So if that's not in this contract, I would sure like to see something in that area explored. So can staff take that up and see? I know City of New Orleans, I just read an article where they're hiring 50 to 75 non-sworn personnel to conduct things that would normally be handled by police officers to free up their officers for their core mission. And I don't know if that's, I don't want to pretend to be the management of police, but if that's something we can do, I know we have RSO needs for transport, so if that's something we need to recruit for, I would agree with Roger.
Does staff want to clarify anything? Or?
I'd just like to say we're currently fully staffed with non-sworn.
Perfect. So there's no reason to recruit yet.
And until they leave to police academy, right?
I know our consultants in the audience. Did you want to introduce yourself? I mean, you sat here through our last. I think you got here early, so you've been here at least 2 hours, probably.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Do I need to hit something?
They got you.
Great, thank you so much. So much of what we do is about, selling the city and the vibe and kind of the culture within the agency as well as the community. And I can tell just from what I've seen here tonight that it's an easy sell. So we're really excited to get started. And, just regarding the non-sworn stuff, it's always, we can develop content and spread that out upon as your needs develop throughout the year. So, or the 2 years. So it's not a big issue for us if it's, hey, you know what, we got a dispatcher need or we have a need for records or something like that. Definitely something we can develop. And again, when we're dealing with digital, that's the great thing is that it can always be modified and tweaked throughout the campaign. You never want to kind of set it and forget it. It needs to be adjusted as your needs change throughout the 2 years. So hopefully that puts you at ease.
Thank you so much.
One additional comment, if I could, is when we have our badge swearing ceremonies with new officers, there's nobody in the audience going boo. They're all giving our new officers, a standing ovation. So make sure you let everybody know that the officers in Desert Hot Springs are very much appreciated.
And for laterals, that story is huge. And that's not what we, often we get hired in communities where that doesn't, that's not a reality that they have. And so it's really makes our job a lot easier.
Thank you for coming out today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
If there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion. There's a motion to approve staff recommendation. Is there a second? Second. Wait for it to be moved and second on the screen. If there's no other discussion, please vote. Gary pushed buttons and locked. You got it.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Administrative calendar item number 5 is a resolution regarding compliance with the annual fire inspection of certain occupancies pursuant to section 13146.2 and 13146.3 of the California Health and Safety Code. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry, Fire Chief. When I say chief, they both look up.
No worries. So some background on the resolution in front of you. In 2018, California Health and Safety Code section 13146.4 was added and became effective January 1st, 2019. Section 13146.4 requires all fire departments that provide fire protection services to report annually to their administrating authority on the compliance of Health and Safety Code section 13146.2 and .3. Both of those sections require annual inspections of every building used as a public or private school, hotel, motel, lodging house, apartment house, and certain residential care facilities for compliance with building standards. There's no fiscal impact as a result of this action, and the attachments in your staff report include the excerpts from the actual health and safety code, as well as the resolution, and then a list of the occupancies that were inspected. I have some of our Office of the Fire Marshal team here, and that's the end of our report, and we can answer any questions you might have.
First, start with any public comments. Does anybody like to comment on this item? See nobody coming forth. We'll close public comments. I'll start down here. Ms. Pye, anything? Mr. Nunez? No. Mr. Gardner? Mr. Betts? All right, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Staff recommendation has been moved. It's been seconded. Please put them on the screen. No further discussion. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Item 6 of the administrative calendar is the year-end budget adjustments for the fiscal year 2021-2022. Mr. Buckheim.
Good evening. Thank you. So this is basically a housekeeping item to increase appropriations for expenditures made during the fiscal year for 21-22 since the mid-year budget adjustments. These were for expenditures, most of the were for expenditures related to capital improvement funds for storm drains, parks, and roads, as well as expenditures in the Health and Wellness Center and the citywide landscape and lighting maintenance district. As you can see, we have a total increase of revenues of $791,265 and a total increase in expenditure of $736,572 for a net change of over $54,000. For fiscal year 21-22, only restricted funds needed some additional appropriations approvals. For any of the funds you see here with a negative net change, we will be using the funds or fund balance available in those funds for these additional expenditures. So staff recommends approving the resolution for adopting the year-end budget adjustments.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item? No public comments. We'll close public comments. Is there any questions? Mr. Betts? Mr. Gardner? Mr. Nunez? Ms. Pye? I'll entertain a motion.
Move we adopt the year-end budget adjustment.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second when it comes up on the screen.
Could we get Gerald to read it again? He did so good on that.
Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Nothing was pulled from the consent calendar. Is there anybody in the audience that wanted to speak in public comments that did not speak at the beginning? See nobody coming forth. The next Planning Commission meeting will be November 7th here in the City Council chambers. If you have not voted, Election Day is the day after, which is next Tuesday. So with that said, the Planning Commission is being moved to Monday. So if you really enjoy those Planning Commission meetings, Public Safety Commission will be on the 10th. Don't forget Veterans Day on the 11th, and we'll be back here on the 15th. We are adjourned.